This is Jarrod Horak, and my How to Use Today's Racing Digest video series continues with a look at race competition levels, also known as class ratings. And I will use today's Racing Digest data for my examples, and all data in this video provided by today'sracingdigest.com. Race competition levels, RCL for short, makes it easy to handicap any class level changes a horse may be making in today's race by converting the race conditions into a simple numeric system. The Digest's RCL assigns a rating to all class levels. And over the past 50 plus years, today's Racing Digest has built an expansive system to convert class conditions into a numerical value. And assigning a numerical value to each race allows the handicapper to easily detect the class of each horse. The Digest does this by designating a number anywhere from 75 to 210 to each race. And for the most part, each class level receives a number that remains static. For example, a Grade 1 stakes race for older males is always a 210. A $32,000 claimer for older fillies and mares is always a 140. 3-year-old and 2-year-old races earn higher RCLs as the year advances, which reflects the horse's maturing. 5 points equals one class level. So a Grade 1 race for older males has an RCL of 210, and a Grade 2 older male race receives a 205. And since the Grade 1 race is 5 points higher than a Grade 2 race, the Grade 1 race is considered to be one class level stronger than a Grade 2 race. Today's Racing Digest race competition levels can be found in the race header section in the complete digest. And now we're going to look at the race competition levels in the race header. We're going to concentrate on lines 8 through 13 in the example on the screen, and the numbers in this section are highlighted in green. And for this example, I am using race 6 at Del Mar on Sunday, November 30th, an optional claiming dirt sprint for 3-year-olds and up. And the race level for this event is 170. And we're going to look at line 8 first, and it says RRL. That's the recent race level. And this is the race level of the horse's last race. Today's Racing Digest simplifies changes in class levels by using a simple number system for each class level. And as I stated earlier, 5 points equals one class level. My 9 RCL is the race competition level. And in this column, this is the highest class level a horse has been competitive within the last 90 days. And an X in this column indicates a horse hasn't been competitive at any level recently. And line 10 is next. That says best surface, and best previous surface reflects the highest RCL for the surface, dirt, turf, or synthetic of today's race, where the horse has been competitive over the past 6 months. If no rating is shown, then either the horse has no experience or the horse has not been competitive on today's surface within the past 6 months. Line 11 is best distance. Best previous distance reflects the highest RCL for the distance, sprint, or route of today's race, where the horse has been competitive over the past 6 months. If no rating is shown, then either the horse has no experience or the horse has not been competitive at today's race distance within the past 6 months. Line 12 is past class, and this shows the highest class level, RCL, at which the horse has been effective previously, and 2-year-old races are not considered. This lets you know how classy a horse once was. And then line 13, average RCL. And the average RCL is an average of the horse's recent race levels where it has been competitive. To qualify for a rating in this column, the horse must have met 2 of the 3 following criteria in at least 2 races during the past 6 months. Must have finished within 15 points of the adjusted RCL, must have finished 5th or better, or must have finished within 5 lengths of the winner. So we are looking at this race right now, and you can see highlighted in green multiple horses in this event. They had run competitive at the 170 class level in the past. So this was a competitive event in here, and some of the horses did have an X, like Getaway Car, Judge Miller, even see through it for the RCL. And I mentioned what the X meant earlier. And for this race, Bartholdi, number 7, ended up winning this race. Now he was 12-1. As you can see how competitive it was. It wasn't that far-fetched to get to this horse. Definitely fit on class, and he did have some competitive final time ratings as well. And my top choice, for the record, was Midland Money number 4. And he took all the late money. Getaway Car was the favorite. And then as the betting kept going, Midland Money was bet down to 3-2. And he ended up rallying from the back of the pack in this event and finishing a clear second in a decent enough effort, possibly a prep race for the Malibu for that one. And now we're going to look at some other example races from November 30th because I've explained the race competition levels now. And now I want to find out and tell you how we can use that information in our handicapping to make some money. And the Today's Racing Digest competition levels tells us which horses are the classiest, but that's all we'll know at that point. We need to then look at the speed ratings. So I like to use final time ratings and other Today's Racing Digest performance ratings in conjunction with the race competition levels to pick some more winners. Now we're going to look at some examples from Sunday, November 30th, closing day of the Del Mar Fall Meet. Race 7, the Grade 1 Matriarch Fillies and Mares, 1 mile on the turf course, and the race level for this event was 195. And looking at this 7th race, we're going to again concentrate on lines 8 through 13, the race competition levels. And you can see that AG Bullet, number 8, was competitive and running at the 210 class level. And one of the reasons that that horse had that class level is because she competed against males in the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And she ended up running a decent race that day, hitting the board. And she was stretching out to 1 mile in here. So even though she did have those levels, you'd have to still look to see how she could handle that 1 mile distance because that last race was at 5 furlongs. And as you can see, we'll go over to line 11, best at the distance. And those are the class levels at the distance. And Ozara and Heredia, and then also Sagesta, they all ran at the 195 level, which was the level of this event. And then AG Bullet had past class and average RCL as well. So now we will look at the past performances of the horses. And the winner of this race was Sagesta. And that one was my top choice. I did a video for this race for my channel. And for Sagesta, she did run a quality race in here. And she had been improving her numbers. And she was jumping up to the 195 class level, which was this level last time at Keeneland. And in a Grade 1 there, she finished a close second. And looking at her final time rating, she got a 146. Now, her start prior to that was at Kentucky Downs. She was in a Grade 3 race. That was a 175 class level there, and she got a 147 final time rating. So she was able to maintain that 147 in a Grade 3 by earning a 146 final time rating in a Grade 1 last time. So she definitely had the class. And as I said, for AG Bullet, she did have the class, but she was mostly sprinting. And even though she had won in routes before, she came out of last year's Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and she finished the close third, and she ran in the Matriarch, and she finished third again, getting around a 146 in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year, and then a 141 final time rating in this race. And then she had earned a 147 final time rating in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year. So logic told you that maybe she would drop off a bit and run a lower 140s number, and that would make her a bit vulnerable in here. And she was. Sagesta ended up winning this event easily under Flavian Pratt for trainer Chad Brown. And in our time, a long shot set the pace and finished second. AG Bullet did end up holding third in this event, but she was one that could have been a bit vulnerable in here, stretching out in distance. But she certainly did fit on class. But as I mentioned, Sagesta was the right one to play in here. And the next race we're going to look at is race 8, and that was the Grade 3 Bayakoa for fillies and mares, 1 mile on dirt, and the race level here, 175. So looking at this one, you can see that there was especially one horse in here dropping in class, and that was Hope Road. Hope Road ran in the Breeders' Cup. She was the favorite. She finished third. That was the filly and mare sprint, the 195 class level. So she was dropping to a 175 class level here. So she was definitely the class. She had the RRL and then race line 10, the best at the surface, a 195, and then also past class and then average RCL. So she was clearly the class of the field. And another horse that could have ended up running a good race, if you look at the RRL, was Simply Joking. And that one was coming out of a 185 class level, although she didn't run well. But that was coming off of a layoff at Keeneland in the Grade 2 Raven Run, and she did have trouble that day. So this was her second start after a layoff, and she was stretching back out, and Simply Joking was able to make the lead, but Hope Road was just too classy, and she went past her. And they were my top two, with Hope Road my top choice and Simply Joking my second choice. And Hope Road was just much the best, too classy for Simply Joking. Simply Joking was a 3-year-old filly as well, taking on older in here. But for Simply Joking, she's one you can watch the La Brea Stakes at Santa Anita Park at 7 furlongs for 3-year-old fillies later this month. She's one that certainly could do well in that race. Simply Joking cutting back maybe a mile against older company, a little bit too much, but she ran well, holding second. And Simply Joking cutting back in distance next time, possibly for the La Brea. She's one that could end up running well in that event. And the final race I'm going to look at for November 30th, race 9, a maiden special weight event for 2-year-olds, a mile and an eighth on the turf course, and the race level 130. And now we're going to look at lines 8 through 13 again, the race competition levels, and see if there's any standouts on class. And there was a horse that stood out on class, number 12, Plutarch, the favorite for trainer Bob Baffert. This one was coming out of a race and looking at line 8, a 150 class rating. And then an RCL on line 9, a 160. So the last 2 races, this horse was coming out of much higher class levels. And let's see how that horse performed in those races. They were stakes races, a Grade 1 race on dirt, Santa Anita on October 4th, a close third. That was a good race in the American Pharoah. And this one in that 160 class level got a 137 final time rating. And then last time, a turf route at Del Mar against Stakes Company, the 150 class level, third beaten 2 lengths, getting a 123 final time rating. So getting a lot of class relief for Bob Baffert, dropping from stakes races. And this horse had hit the board in 3 straight stakes races. 2 of those races were graded and 2 on the turf course. So Plutarch, definitely the class of the field, moving back into the maiden ranks. And he won this race easily. So Plutarch certainly has a decent amount of stamina, being able to go a mile and an eighth, coming out of those big races and running well against Stakes Company, moving back into the maiden ranks here, was able to put forth a big effort and win nicely under Flavian Pratt. So Plutarch was the winner. And I did end up going with a little bit of a price. I went with Medici, number 13. That one had been running in the maiden ranks and putting blinkers back on, and was able to track the pace and had the lead in the stretch, but couldn't hold off Plutarch, and just did fail to get a minor placing there, getting tired in the late going. So if I was playing another maiden race in the future, Medici for trainer Richard Mandela, possibly maybe cutting back to a mile, that could be one that could do well, because he hit the board in back-to-back 1-mile races, finishing second and third prior to this event, and his speed ratings were on the rise. So I think maybe the mile and an eighth distance outside post, a little bit too much for him to overcome in here, but Medici did run a decent race, and he's one you can look at in the future if he cuts back in distance a bit. I think maybe, as I said, a mile and an eighth, a bit too much. Plutarch could be heading to the stakes ranks for trainer Bob Baffert. He's already proven in the stakes ranks, and Plutarch is certainly one that could do some damage in the future for trainer Bob Baffert. And he handles dirt as well, so don't be surprised maybe if Baffert will throw him in a dirt route stakes race, possibly trying to pick up some Kentucky Derby points. But he has a horse that can handle multiple surfaces, coming off of a nice looking maiden win on Sunday at Del Mar. And that will do it for my look at today's Racing Digest race competition levels. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and I will get back to everyone as soon as possible. And today's Racing Digest has been providing past performance data to handicappers since 1970, and one of their most popular products is the Complete Digest. And the Complete Digest includes race competition levels, fractional charting, the race header, analysis, fire numbers, pace and final time ratings, wagering strategies, and much more. You can go to todaysracingdigest.com for more information on their handicapping products. And like, comment, and share these videos if you like them. Subscribe to my channel as well. It's free to subscribe. And until I see you next time, good luck at the races.